Good evening, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news of this evening, man points a gun at a police in St. Mary, escapes. St. Mary police are searching for a man who reportedly pointed a firearm at the cops responding to an incident in Enfield in the parish on Wednesday. Reports are that lawmen from the St. Mary Operational Support Team were alerted to a stabbing incident that occurred at a shop in the Juno Pen community of Enfield. Upon their arrival, residents pointed out one of the perpetrators to the police team. It is further reported that as the police approached the suspect, the man walked into a yard and was pursued by the cops. However, as the lawmen entered the yard, another man emerged from behind the house with a firearm which he pointed at the police. The cops drew their weapons, and the gunman, upon seeing this, fled into nearby bushes. The stabbing suspect, 29-year-old Dylan Ferguson, was arrested and charged. It is understood that there was no serious injuries in the incident. Investigations are ongoing. 2 killed in St. James motor vehicle collision. A man and a woman succumbed to injuries they sustained in a motor vehicle crash along the Rose Hall Main Road in St. James in the early hours of Friday morning. The deceased, who have not yet been identified, were traveling in a Honda step-wagon motor vehicle just after midnight from Montego Bay towards Falmouth when the collision occurred with a Toyota Probox motor car. The reports are that about 12:05 a.m., the Probox, which was traveling in the opposite direction, jumped the median and crashed into the step-wagon, fatally injuring the driver of the step-wagon and the passenger who was seated directly behind him. The step-wagon, which apparently was being operated as a taxi, had 10 occupants aboard. Several of the other occupants had to be rushed to hospital for treatment. The Probox had 4 occupants, but only one was taken to hospital for treatment. These road fatalities in the parish followed that of Police Constable Alfredo Newman, who was killed in a motor vehicle collision on Wednesday, February 5. It was reported that about 8:25 a.m., Newman was riding his personal motorcycle along the Unity Hall Main Road in St. James when it collided with a motor car. He was rushed to hospital for treatment, but later succumbed to his injuries. Bus conductor shot and killed in Spanish Town. A man was shot and killed in Spanish Town, St. Catherine on Friday morning while loading passengers onto a public passenger vehicle. He is Loxley Brown, otherwise called the Country, a 31-year-old bus conductor of Spanish Town, St. Catherine. It is reported that about 7:45 a.m., Brown was along Young Street in Spanish Town seeking passengers when he was pounced upon by unknown assailants who shot him in the upper body. He was assisted to the Spanish Town Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The Spanish Town Criminal Investigations Branch is conducting a probe into the matter. Residents dispute the police version of Spanish Town bypass shooting. Family members and the friends of Everton Spike and Jason Spike, 2 brothers, fatally shot by the security forces around 7:45 p.m. Thursday on the Spanish Town bypass, are disputing the police's account of the incident. Angry residents mounted a roadblock near Okra Lane and De La Vega City, alleging that the brothers were killed in cold blood despite complying with police orders. The blockage was quickly cleared by security forces. A family member stated that the brothers had just finished playing dominoes and were on their way to buy food when they were killed. "I was sitting across the road and see everything. They didn't have gun. They are not troublemakers," a resident insisted while protesting the alleged police brutality. Residents claim the brothers had their hands raised when they were shot. However, police reported that the men fired at them first, leading to an exchange of gunfire. 2 firearms were allegedly recovered. The Independent Commission of Investigations has launched a probe into the fatal shooting. 2 of 5 Clarendon persons of interest now in police custody. 2 of 5 men listed as persons of interest by the Clarendon police are currently in custody. They are 20-year-old Andre Gordon, otherwise called Ivan, Gully or Jordan, a fisherman of Bungee Corner in Rocky Point, Clarendon, and the 31-year-old Diesel Bailey, otherwise called a Clapper, a fisherman of West End, Rocky Point. The police are encouraging the remaining men listed to immediately surrender to the Mapen Criminal Investigations Branch. They are 31-year-old Daniel Guthrie, otherwise called Lennox, a fisherman of Rocky Point, 29-year-old Timoy Robinson, otherwise called Timmy or Booby, a taxi operator of Portland Cottage, Clarendon, and the 32-year-old Lauriston Hebert, otherwise called Kiki, of Lioneltown, Clarendon. The men are being sought for questioning in connection with serious crimes committed in the parish. Realtors required to ask for clients' source of funds to buy a house. Past the president of the Realtors Association of Jamaica, Howard Johnson Jr., says realtors are mandated by law to request the information about the source of funds from their clients seeking to purchase a house. This comes in the wake of a conversation on social media platform X, where users shared deep reservations about providing real estate agents with information about their source of funds. Some have argued that it is an invasion of their privacy and questioned whether realtors are trying to determine if they can afford to buy a house before allowing them to view it. But Mr. Johnson, speaking with the news on Wednesday, explained that proof of source of funds is to show that money being used to purchase the property was legitimately obtained to prevent money laundering.
That's part of the anti-money laundering regime that we are now mandated to observe. And in our Know Your Customer, we have to identify how are these persons going to purchase. So we have to, if it's cash, we need to get a letter from the bank, or we need to know the authenticity of that cash resource. Or if we are getting a mortgage, we need to know that you're pre-qualified. For rental, we also have to do that due diligence on behalf of the landlord, because oftentimes you would hear of the stories, probably have done programs on it, where you have horror tenants. They afford it for the first month or two, and then there's no sustainable income thereafter. Consumers have to understand that the culture and the dynamics and the environment that we live in, there are certain things that we must adhere to for better governance to protect all stakeholders, landlords, sellers, and the buyers, and ultimately the tenants. It is not a statutory obligation for realtors.
Confusion erupts over government-built homes for poor. The government yesterday moved to allay the fears of beneficiaries of houses under the new social housing program that their dwellings would be reclaimed when they die, with an assurance that houses are fully owned by the beneficiaries. All houses are constructed on land provided by the beneficiaries, a core requirement for receiving a social house under the NSHP. This includes land ownership, long-term lease, or granted permission supported by legitimate claims such as a deed of gift. This approach ensures stability, accountability, and responsible resource stewardship, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation said. It said that the NSHP does not operate on a rent-to-lease or rent-to-own model, and that the ministry does not have lands to facilitate such a model. Beneficiaries of houses under the Indigent Housing Program also had similar worries, according to opposition spokesperson for local government Natalie Nita Garvey, who yesterday sought a clarification from local government minister Desmond McKenzie. When contacted by the news yesterday, McKenzie said that a statement would be provided by the ministry. It was not received up to press time last night. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation was, however, responding to a video in which a person questioned the ownership of the homes based on statements made by McKenzie at a post-cabinet media briefing on Wednesday about his ministry's indigent housing program, which was recently scrutinized by the Auditor General's Department. He noted that the beneficiaries under the program were persons registered under the Poor Relief Act, and said the houses remain the property of the municipal corporation. So if someone dies, the municipality retains the right of the house and it is passed on to someone who is in need. Nita Garvey said the minister's remarks had caused national concern. According to her, persons who had received houses on their lands or lands gifted to them were worried that their relatives could lose the properties when they die. It is of great concern, as many would be considering to will the houses and the land to their children and the children's children, so it can stay with them for generations to come. So we are against the taking back of the houses, especially those houses that were not built on lands belonging to the government, she said. The opposition is firmly against houses being taken away from the elderly, registered poor, indigent individuals, or anyone on the pauper's roll, as this would put surviving family members at risk of homelessness or destitution, she added. She said she was advised that the ownership of indigent housing provided to registered poor or paupers on the roll only reverts to the municipal corporation if constructed on vested pauper lands. However, she said Mackenzie's statement implied that this was the case for all housing grants. The legal status of these homeowners must be clarified, as persons now receiving houses are confused by contradictory statements made by the minister and their original understanding, she said, calling for similar clarification on the ownership of the houses under the NSHP. Thank you everyone for watching. See you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for another news update.